The group learning process is actually about how we develop attributes in the students, how they develop their communication and interpersonal skills, how we actually bring that into the assessment process. We're categorizing all the learning objectives and assessment tasks into 5 basic strands. We have creativity and innovation, communication and interpersonal skills, practical and professional skills, attitudes and values, and critical thinking and research skills. Educational researchers say that assessment drives learning, and if you don't integrate those into the assessment process, those skills, then the students tend not to treat them as seriously, and they need to be embedded in subjects. So those attributes need to develop over time and actually become higher in level as they go through all the 4 years of the course. We've developed some software called Review that actually develops these attributes across all 4 years of the course. You'll see on this screen that the students are being assessed against 6 criteria, and when you roll over the symbol, you'll see that these particular criteria are coded towards practical professional skills, the red ones there. The green ones are creativity and innovation, this yellow one's communication and interpersonal skills. And what the staff member does is come in here and drag these sliders around, and it calculates a mark for them automatically. But what you can see here is a little turquoise triangle. Prior to the staff member going in and assessing the subject, the students themselves have been in previously and self-assessed. When it comes to group work, unless you actually let them self-assess and let them actually go through the process of assessing their own and their peers' contributions and allow that to actually affect the mark, then really they become very disgruntled about just being thrown into groups with no reference to that as part of their learning. This is Spark Self and Peer Assessment Resource Kit, and the lecturer can go in and set up their subjects and put the students in and set up assessment criteria. In this case, the lecturer has set up group function, final presentation, client contact as categories of criteria, and then put in their own particular criteria that they want the students to develop. So for instance, versatility in what was required, helping the group function well as a team, creative input throughout the process, etc. The students go in and you can see they click on a pull-down menu. The grading is from -1 to +3, -1 being student has been detrimental to the group in that particular criteria, 0 is no contribution, 1 is below average contribution, 2 is average, and 3 is above average. Then when they've assessed themselves and each other, Spark calculates a factor, and that's used to determine their individual share of the group mark. Group allocation is a really interesting area, and students themselves often like to just work with their own friends. But if you really have a serious attempt to develop their interpersonal skills and the communication skills, you really want to mix them up. So some people just randomly select groups. This is not necessarily a very engaging way of doing it, and so I've used many different methods and tried lots of different things over the years. For instance, there's a researcher called Kolb who came out with the fact that people have to learn things through thinking or feeling, doing or watching. And so I've used that in some context to spread people around into groups. Another way, we've used De Bono's 6 thinking hats. I've even used astrological signs. I've used Chinese acupuncture energy systems. In that context, you want them to be engaging in different ways, and so really giving them an opportunity to have fun in that process as well. And there's another one which is very important if you want to develop their idea of team roles. We've used something called Belbin's team roles. Belbin did research on 2,000 business teams and found that there were certain characteristics of teams which made them successful. And in this context, he came up with 8 or 9 different categories. People like coordinators or implementers or resource people or leaders. They can see what their bias is or what they're good at, and then we group them accordingly, so you've got a good balance in each group. Then they reflect about their own role, performance during the task, and come back with the kind of feeling, well, I thought I was more of a coordinator, but actually I was much better at the research. And so it helps them self-reflect and also get feedback from their peers. Students often turn off when it comes to history learning. Often they're used to getting lectures at school, they don't have a lot of engagement with it, but in this context what we try and do is get them to see their team role playing as a good way of doing it, get them to do a lot of research online and work together online, and then finally they come into the debate. And we've set it up in such a way that people that they're researching and as a group have very opposing views about what design is.
Typography is not to be used as an extended homage to oneself.
So online and live, the debate in the lecture theatre is very dynamic.
You cannot see the message. The message is trying to break free.
The students really start learning and really start identifying what they're good at, where they could improve, and they really start to enjoy group work, particularly when they know that using Spark they're going to get an individual mark. They're not going to get just a blanket group mark. When we've actually had meetings with tutors and tried to identify any problems with the factors and the marks that were then resulting from them, they've gone through their own notes and said, well actually, yeah, that's actually pretty fair, I think. And we have not had any complaints from the students. In fact, we've had glowing reports from students about, yes, Spark helped me to not only reflect about my own performance, but actually I felt like I was able to enter the group work process knowing that it would be fair. So it's been a very, very interesting thing from the student standpoint, and it's the students that have driven the adoption of it and led now to us redesigning it and updating the software from the old Microsoft thing that it was.
Is this what you want from a typographer?